Let me show you how we can use Microsoft Excel to create box plots for a single variable and to split those box plots by a categorical variable. For this example, I'm using the Depicting Distributions Week 6 Excel spreadsheet. You can find that both in our class or through a link in the description for this video. Let's take a look at the data points, and I'll show you what we need to know about creating box plots. On the first tab, we find the dog toys data set. We've used this extensively throughout this series. Now we're going to turn our attention to box plots, which will be on the box plot tab. This is where we're going to do all of our work. If you want to see what it will look like when we're done, click on the secondary tab. Here's what those box plots are ultimately going to look like. Here we see one for a single variable. Here we see that same box plot split by the 3 breeds of dog. Let's go back to box plot. Now I have been calling these box plots, although Microsoft Excel calls them box and whisker plots. 2 names for the same thing. Let me show you how they're done. We're going to create that first box plot only for the toys owned. We're going to create a box plot for the entire variable. I start by clicking on column B to select all of these data points, and then I go to the Insert tab, and under the charts, I want to go to this one that says Statistical. Click, and you'll notice the option for Box and Whisker. Click once, and there's your box plot. You notice that we have an outlier. It's the value of 20. If you've watched the previous video, you know all about this outlier and how by changing the value of this outlier, we will be able to strengthen our correlation model. Now that is the box plot for the entire variable. But what if we want to look a little more closely, such as splitting the box plot by the 3 breeds of dogs? We're going to create 3 box plots side by side that examine the overall findings split out by those 3 breeds. And here's how that's done. As we did when we created the original box plot, we're going to start by selecting the data that will go into this box plot. This time we need both variables, dog breed and toys owned. And from there, the steps are pretty much the same. Go to the Insert tab, and then select the option for Statistical Charts. Click on Box and Whisker, and the new box plots are created. Now let's look for outliers. The first thing you'll notice is this little dot for retrievers. That means there is one retriever who owns more toys than the rest of the retrievers, but that's not necessarily an outlier. It may be an outlier within this subgrouping, but the value itself is in keeping with the rest of the remainder of the data. However, the location of this outlier right here, number 20, would be found right there among the fuzzy dogs. Apparently, there are fuzzy dogs that own more and more toys. Probably the one that owns 14 would also be in this category. So we do have a box plot that doesn't itself contain the outlier, or let me say that differently. This box plot doesn't identify as an outlier, the most extreme value, but we do see the outlier among the rest of the data. This is why it's important to examine both the entire variable when we're looking for outliers and a subdivision of that variable to look at the different levels within the variable. And that is how you create 2 kinds of box plots, or box and whisker plots, using Microsoft Excel.